Alright guys, so this is the page that we will actually create. So this is some sort of modern blog web design. As you can see, we have some sort of social icons in here, some sort of contact information, and there is the main navigation. Then we have this sort of hero section where we have just 5 blog posts of ours. We have like different styles so that you can switch between this large sort of style and then small blog post style. Then we have this sort of main section. In here we have just different blog posts, and on the side we have just the authors. Obviously you want to add different authors in here, obviously this is just a template. Then inside here we have just some sort of tags for the whole blog. I think that it looks pretty cool. Also load more button, and in here is the actual footer. So let me show you how it looks on a mobile phone. As you can see, we have a simple header. It's just there's a different layout of it. I've also choose to somehow differentiate the navigation. I think it looks interesting. You may want to choose just to keep things plain and simple and just keep it white with black text on it, but I just thought that it might be an interesting look. Then we have these blog posts, but they are responsive, right? Then we have the blog post with text. As you can see, it still is responsive, fully responsive. There's no problem with that. We have the load more button, the authors section, and then the tags. And lastly, we have the footer. All is fully responsive, and as you can see, it's looking good on a mobile phone. We have also created a category.html, so this should be just the part of your web where you, for example, if you click on this link in your navigation, it should take you probably to a page like this one, where you have all of the posts from that particular category. And I think that this looks actually pretty good. It's just fairly simple, you know, a page with blog posts and then a footer and this like large heading of the category. Once again, it is fully responsive. If I just start to look, basically this is the only thing that we've added, right? Otherwise we just have a blog post in here. So things are looking good, it's still responsive. And let me also show you how the detail page looks like. So if we have a blog post, usually that's the page that should be shown when we click on some sort of blog post. As you can see, there's the blog title, the post title, then we have the image, some sort of text, so the actual content. This is how the link looks like when we put a link inside of this text. Then we have some sort of categories inside here, basically text and the section with the authors. And lastly, we have, of course, footer. When we take a look at how it looks on mobile phone, you can notice that it looks fairly similar. You can see that there is a lot of text, but overall, I think that this is styled pretty nicely. And yeah, so I think that this looks pretty good, and this is actually what we will create in the next hour or so. And another thing that I just want to mention is that if you feel at any point the need to actually hit the like button, feel free to do so. And yeah, without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so I have here my folder opened up in my Visual Studio Code. As you can see, I have the index.html with very simple predefined template, right? So just the head and body tags. Inside here, don't forget to add this metadata that will just basically make sure that we can make this page responsive. And then I've also did a importing of Font Awesome. So in here is a link, just type Font Awesome CSS link, or you can just download Font Awesome and just href it in here. I've also used this font from Google Font. Simply just copy paste this link into your project and you are good to go. So this is the last link, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've also linked the main.css that I have right here. And in here, I've already set the font family to this font. And I've already predefined just 6 sort of predefined classes. These will be just for basically background and color, right? I've predefined a color theme using this tool, colors.com. And in here we have just a predefined color theme, so colors that look good together, and I've just used them in here. Nice. And I've also have opened up a live server in here, so this page should automatically reload when I start typing in my index.html. So without any further ado, let's just get into it. So I will create a new comment saying that this is a navigation. So we will start out with the navigation, and I will just type in here header. Inside of the header we will have some sort of div with the class of container. Okay, so that's so that the page so that we have a little bit of space around the content. Then we will have let's just say another div with the class of display flex. So this will be displayed as a flex box, and we will have, what do we have? Well, let's see, we will have a div with the class of social links. So we will put a couple of social links. I will put them into unordered list, and these will be just list items with links in them, right? The link will probably lead to your social page. I will just leave that blank, and I will also add a class to this thing, and this will be just font awesome Facebook. So this should add the icon. If I save this thing, there is the icon. Nice. So let me just copy paste real quickly Twitter and maybe some other social networks. What else do you have? Let's see, Twitter. Then we have, let's just use the YouTube play button, because the YouTube icon really looks weird. And let's also use Instagram, so that we are very social. There it is. Nice. Then underneath we will have some sort of logo. So I will just create a div with the class of let's just call this one logo container, and inside, of course, like this, container, and inside of here I will just have a link with the class of logo. And let's just say that obviously we want to define the href here, right? So that leads to your root domain, and in here we will just say the name of our blog. So let's just say modern blog, and we can maybe put this into a span so that we can style it later on a little bit differently than the whole modern word. So this blog will be in a span. Cool. Then we will have another div with the class of how do I call this one? Info. So there will be some sort of info bar about us. So let's just use once again an unordered list with these list items in there. And we can just put a link or something like that, and in here we will just put, for example, our phone number. So I will just use the icon, so I will just copy paste this whole thing, and I will just say FA phone, and right after this I will just put some sort of number, so just some sort of random number. I don't know what number format is in your country, but here in Czech Republic we have this number format. Obviously we want to change it to some real number. And also in here we will put a mail, so info@foobar.com. Alright, and of course this should be something like envelope or something like that, just indicating that this is an email. Nice. So that's our whole heading. Or our whole first heading, if you want to call this thing. And let me just define a navbar underneath, and this navbar will have also a class of, or we don't necessarily have to put display flex in here, so let's just use a unordered list in here, and let me put a lot of list items in here, just indicating the categories of the blog. Alright, so I've copy pasted a couple of topics, couple of categories for our main blog site. Just one thing that I maybe want to mention that some of you don't know, if you want to put an ampersand in here somewhere in your text, you should use this sign instead of just putting in the plain ampersand. I think that this should still work if I just put a ampersand in there. Yeah, but it is not a valid. You should just use this whole thing. Cool. So that's about the header. Header is pretty much taken care of. So let me also just define the main section, sort of. So let's just call this one main. And what we will do in here is we will just create a section, with the class of main or hero or something like that. And inside here we will have a class with container like this. And then what we will do, well, we will have a div with the class of grid and free calls. So we will have 3 columns in here. Each one of them will have will be just as a, let's see, yeah, it will be as a div. So we will have 3 divs, each one of them representing 1 column. And inside of them, we will have some sort of articles. So article, and these will be just a blog post. So let's just maybe put a class of blog post to this. And let's see, we will have some sort of image with the class of image fluid. And let's also add some sort of alt to it. I will leave that up to you to fill, and also source. And the source should be just go to images, and let's just pick the 0. Nice. Then we will have just a div with the class of blog post content. All right. And inside of this, we will have just some sort of heading. Let's just use H3 level. So heading of level 3. And let me just type in here, this is the blog post heading, like this. Nice. And let's also add some sort of div with the class of blog post info, something like this. And let's see, in here we will have just some date. So I will have just a paragraph saying, okay, this is a 20th of March of 2020. And actually right on the other side, I will create a new paragraph, or maybe a link, but yeah, whatever. And this will be just saying the category. So for example, programming or web development or whatever you want. All right, that should do the trick. And I think that if we put this as a display flex, because we will need to display this as a flex box, I think that we are pretty much ready. So let's just start to style the document, and then we will get back to this whole filling up the other articles. So let me just go in here into the main.css, and let me just start out by styling the header. All right, so let's just say that the header will have some sort of padding around it. Definitely we will need something let's just use 1.5 rams and 0, because we don't need that. Let's also let's also define sort of general classes. So general. So these are just the classes that we will use throughout our whole project. And in here, let me just put first of all, the class of display flex. So display flex like this, and let's just say display and not inline, but flex. So this should help out a lot. Okay, we need to add these classes actually to our unordered list. So let's just go back, and in here we have display flex. All right, that's odd, but we will figure it out later on. So inside here, I will just put a class of display flex. Let's see. All right, so there is something wrong. There is definitely something wrong, because otherwise this should work. So display flex. I'm not sure whether we've linked the file correctly. There it is. So let me just reload this whole thing. Okay, so let me open up developer tools and see what's actually happening. So if I just move this, okay, CSS main is having problem loading the CSS main. So let's just try this thing, whether that helps. Okay, it doesn't. All right, I've made a typo in here, so sorry about it. CSS, now it's working. Nice. So if I just go back to the styling, yeah, we need to do a lot of work in here. So let's just add a class of justify content center. So this will be just a justify content to center, and let's also use align item center because we will just use it later on. Right, these are just the two line item center. These are just the two classes that we will use the most in throughout the whole project. So in here I will just copy paste it and put it right here. So justify, or no, we don't want justify content center in here because it would put the whole content into a center, right? So we want justify content center just with the with this unordered list in the navigation. So in here I will just put class of display flex and also justify content center. And in here we just want to have the space between, so like this. And let me just define the class in here. So I will just go and type space between, and this should be just justify content, and then we will use space between. So that's this one. Let's see, there it is. So currently it's like in between things, I think. All right, so let me just also add this align items to center to this whole thing. So align items center, let's see whether that helps. Yeah, there it is. So we've moved the logo so that it's on one line, so that looks much better. Okay, let me just remove the styling from the unordered list. So there will be no decoration, so the style will be none, because these dots look just horrible. There it is. And we can, I will just make this thing a little bit larger because I think that this is fairly small for a website. All right, and let's also, what do we want to do now? Let me just add some sort of margin to these list items. So every list item well, currently we are just targeting the header, right? So inside the header, every list item will have just some sort of margin. So on the x and y axis nothing, on the x axis nothing, and on the y axis 1 rem. I think that this looks actually pretty cool. Let me also style the A as a link, and let me just say that the color of this will be just the primary one, and the text decoration, we don't want the underlining, right? So let's just remove this to none. Let's see, there it is, nice. What else? All right, I think that there is a little bit of problem with how things look right here, because if we take a look at the size of, let's see, this whole thing, right? You can see that it have like, let's see, the width of 181, if I see it correctly. And if we take a look at this whole thing, it have much larger width, right? So we need to actually fix this. And let's just say that the width of both of these will be just, let's just go with 33%. So I will go back, and the social links, I want to target the social links and the info. So I will just go in here and target the header social links and also header info. And both of these will have the width of 33%. Let's see how that looks like now. All right, there it is. Currently it's centered. Nice. And with the info, currently, if I just take a look, we probably want to align the text to right. I think that this looks actually the best, so let's just go with that. I've used the justify content space evenly for this whole unordered list, and I think that this looks actually the best. All right, so what do we want to do now is also define the container. So I will just go in here and define the container, and this will just say that the you can just put something like a margin of about 5% from left and right, so like this. There it is. So we have currently a container around our whole page, and yeah, I think that this looks actually all right. We can maybe use the same style, so let's see how this would look like if we put also the social icons for this class. and let's just target once again the unordered lists in there. Let's see, there it is. I think that this looks actually pretty nice. Let's just go with that. So I will just target the logo now. So I will just go after the logo, and let's just say that the font size will be something much larger, 1.3 rem, not 13. That would be too large. So 1.3, there it is. I think that this looks actually cool. And let's just say that the font weight will be 800. So really bold, extra bold. Let's see, there it is. I think that this looks actually pretty nice. What you can also do is just target the span inside of it. So logo and target the span. And let's just say that it will have, I don't know, font weight of something. So font weight, where it is, font weight of 700. Let's see how that would look like. That's maybe too odd. Let's just use 400 and see how it would look like. Yeah, there it is. I think that this looks actually nice. Let's just go with that. And let me also style these items. So for the navigation, so header navigation, let me just add some sort of padding around this. So padding of around 1 rem, probably something like that. There it is. We probably want to put a little bit more padding at the top rather than bottom. So let's just say 1.2 rem on top, and then we also want to define something on bottom, but something very small. So padding on bottom, and this should be like 0.5 rems, probably something like that. Let's see. All right, so because there is also a padding from the, there is already a padding from the header, so we probably just want to remove this altogether, and let's just use the padding at top. And I think that this looks actually pretty nice, so let's just go with that. Cool. Then inside here we also want to define these articles. So let me just target this. Let me just close this thing up, and inside here we have the main section. So let me actually see how it would look like if we put background dark for this one. It should get darker. There it is. We obviously need to style the article and then check. So let's just style the article. Or let's just call this one main section. And inside here we will just style the article which have the class of blog post. Or first of all, we just want to target the image fluid, right? Because that's the biggest problem right now. And we just want to say that the width is 100% and save it. Okay, so there should be a little bit of change. There it is. Also, let me define the grid for this one. So inside here, I will just put grid 3 columns, and we've had a display grid, right? We need to add display grid in here. And let's also add the template. So grid template columns, and let's just say 1 fraction, 1 fraction, 1 fraction, like this. And let's see. There it is. Let me also define a grid gap, or let's just define a grid gap, but let's just do it for the columns. Wow. Okay, things got really weird. And let's just say that there will be like 2 rems. That's maybe too much. Let's just go with 1 rem. All right, and there it is. So let me just target the whole article. So as a blog post, let me just see whether I can add a border to it so that we can just see properly where it is. So I will just say border 1 pixel solid, and let's just use something like 666. And there it is. Okay, so there's our blog post, and we really cannot see the text because it has no background. But I think that for this blog, it's better if we just remove this whole thing, because it looks really odd. There it is. And yeah, okay, so let me style it out. So we probably want to just remove this border altogether. We may want to just add some sort of shadow to it so that it looks a little bit better. but we will do that later on. So let me just check how things look like in here. So we have a image, then we have the heading that have quite a lot of margin around it. So we probably want to remove that. And then we have these paragraphs that have also a little bit of margin, but that's probably okay. And we probably want to just use something like space around or space between for this whole thing. So let me just go back, and in here we should just put justify, or how did we call it? Was it just space around? Probably just space around or space between. All right, space between. And let me just put it in here. So in here, I'll just paste it. Nice. And let's also change the margin from the H3. So in here, I will just target the H3, or like overall, probably all of these headings, we just want to target them. Let's just use it in here. So H1, H2, H3, H4, if we will use it. Let's just say that they will have just margin of 0.5 rems and 0 on the x-axis. Let's see how it looks like. There it is. That's maybe still too much. Let's just use something like 0.3. Let's see how 0 would look like. Okay, let's go with 0. So let's just set the margin to 0, and then let's also define the font weight. So font weight, and this one, let's just go with 700. Let's see, there it is. I think that this looks actually pretty cool. So all right, let's see what we want to do. Let me just change the sort of programming. So I will just add a class of badge to this. All right, and let me just style it out in our CSS. So inside here, I will just put badge, and let me just say that it will have margin of 0, but it will have a padding of 0.5. I think that it uses 18 pixels as a padding overall, or as a margin by default. Yeah, I think it does. So let me just check. If I open up developer tools, and let's see what's the margin, 16 pixels. All right, so let's just use 16, and yeah, if we change this to 16, it should look all right. So 16, and let's just say that the background color, or let me just use these predefined classes. So I will just say that the background will be primary, and the color will be dark. Let's see. Yeah, I think that this looks actually all right. Maybe it's too large. So let's just change this whole thing so that we have like padding of 8 pixels and margin of 8 pixels. Let's see, there it is. I think that this looks actually cool. And maybe we can just put a little bit more padding on the x-axis, something like that. Yeah, that's all right. What you may want to do is just use something like a, you may want to just change the font size, or you may want to make the make this whole thing bold. So let's just use font weight of 700 and see how it looks like. There it is. I think that this looks actually okay. So let's just go with that, and let's also say the margin on the right will be nothing, because currently you can see a little bit of space in here and it doesn't look good. So let's just say nothing. There it is. Cool. Okay, I think that this is pretty much ready to go. So let me just copy paste a couple of these articles into our grid. All right, so I've copy pasted a couple of these, and I think that this looks actually pretty cool if we have the middle image kind of larger. So let's just go with that, and let me actually fix this in our CSS so that it looks a little bit better. So what we will do is we will add some sort of margin to this blog post. So definitely a margin at the top. So margin at the top of something like 1 rem. Let's see how that would look like. If I put it in there, there it is. I think that 1 rem is actually enough. You may want to just experiment with this a little bit and try out different sizes. I will just keep it in 1 rem, and let me also just fix these height so that it's centered, okay, so that it's like on one line. So I will just go in here and add the class of an image large for this one, so image large. And in here I will just target every image in the main section, so every image, and let's just say that it will have the height of 20 rem. It's maybe too much. Let's see. Okay, that's too much. Let's just go with like 15 rems. That's pretty all right. Maybe something smaller a little bit. All right, let's just go with 13, and let's also make this object fit. So object fit cover, so that it keeps the aspect ratio. And let me also target the main, and there was like image large, right? And this one will have just the height of, let's see, what do we have? So we have like 13, let's just use 30, because there's some additional text right to this. So we probably want to go with something even larger than that. So let's just go with 33. All right, 32. I think that 32.3 will be all right. Yeah, there it is. Nice. So currently it's pretty much it's leveled in here, and I think that this looks actually very good. What you can do is maybe just change some sort of badges. So let me just change some badges in here, and let me just say that the color will be primary, so color primary, and the background will be dark. Let's see how that would look like. So I've changed one of these badges. I don't know, this one, and I think that this looks actually pretty good. Let's change another one. So I will say that the color in here will be primary, and the background will be dark, like this, and there should be the change somewhere around here. There it is. I think that this looks nice. Let's just go with that. Okay, so let's continue by creating the sort of, how do I call this one? Blog post. And in here we will have just a section with the class of, how do I call this one? Blog posts. Okay, this isn't great, but it's not terrible. 3.6 out of 5. Anyway, I will just add a class of container in here, and then I will just put another div with the class of call, or let me just put this as a grid of 2 to 1 calls. So let's just use it like this. So this should be just our CSS class that will style this thing a little bit. So I will just actually just put it right here, and I will just define it right now. So I will just say that the display will be grid, and let me also say that the grid template columns will be just 2 fraction, 1 fraction, like this. Cool. So inside of our div, let's just let's see what we want to do. Well, inside here we just want to have some sort of section where we will have just our articles. So article, and we can just maybe copy paste this one. So let's just use something like copy paste, but this time we don't want the image to be fluid, or we want, yeah, let me just copy paste it. So let's just remove this whole tag, because it doesn't make sense to have article inside another article. So let's just put it away like this, and let's also put a div inside here with the class of image container, and because we don't want the image to take 100% of the height, right? That would look like this is a huge post, which doesn't look that bad, but I mean, let's just change it. So I will just put it in here like this. So like this, and let me also put a display flex in here. Let's see how that would look like. So if I were load the page, there should be an item. There it is. Okay, and I think that this looks fairly alright. We will just add in here some sort of paragraph, basically saying like, I don't know, what do we want to say? Let's just use lorem ipsum of like 30. So if I just type lorem 30, it will generate 30 words of lorem ipsum of dummy text. And if I hit enter, it should reload. There it is. Okay, I think that this looks actually alright. But we will style it later on. So we will just add some sort of padding to this whole blog post content. But yeah, well, actually we can just do it now, right? We can just do it now. And also we need to somehow handle this batch. I'm not sure why it is styled this way, whether we've used just, let's see. Where do we have the batch? If I find it, batch, there it is. So this should work for everything. I'm not sure why it have. Yeah, I know. It's because this whole paragraph is taking too much space. Okay. So in order to fix that, let me just type in here the blog post. And in order to fix that, we will just target the articles inside of our blog post. So blog posts like this. And we will just target this blog post content. And what we will do is like this, paste it. And I will just say that the width will be, let's just use something like 40%. That may be too much. Let's see if I save it. There it is. All right, so that's too little. So let's just use 60. Okay. All right, so what's happening? Let's just go in here. I'm probably not targeting this correctly. Let's just see blog post content. We have it right here. So width is, all right. So we have a image container and then we have blog post content. So if I just say that the width is 100%, we also have to change the blog post container, obviously. So image container. So if we put like width of 40% in here, there it is. All right. So let's also target that. So I will just copy paste this whole thing and let's just say I would like the image to be larger actually. So I will just put these 60 in here and in here we will use just 40. Let's see how that would look like. All right. That looks pretty odd. Let's see what's happening. So we have this display flex, then we have the image. This image is pretty small. What's happening if I reload the page? Maybe there was some sort of problem. Yeah, there it is. There was some sort of problem. So we probably want to put like 45 at least in here and 55 in here. Let's see. That's still too small. What's happening? Okay, what's happening? We have the image container, but it doesn't have, of course, I need to change this. My bad. So this should be image container. Whoa, image container. Let's see. There it is. Nice. So let's just probably go with the 60-40 situation. 60-40. Like this. I think that this looks actually all right. And let me just put a little bit of margin to this whole thing, or let's just use padding. So padding of 1 rem. Let's see how that would look like. There it is. Nice. And let's just put the height to 100%, or we just want the height of the image to be 100%. So let's just target the image inside of the image container. And like this, and we will just say that the height will be 100%. Let's see if I save it. There it is. And let's also use the object fit. So object fit cover like this, save, and let's see. There it is. Nice, very nice. Okay, so let's also check out these developer tools and just see this whole thing. We probably want to remove the padding at the bottom. So let's just use padding bottom. Let's just override it, right? Padding bottom will be 0. And there it is. Yeah, I think that this looks actually better. Let's just go with that. And I think that this is pretty much good to go. We maybe want to play with the padding at top a little bit, but overall I pretty much like it, so let's just go with that. So let's just copy paste a couple of these. Alright, so I've copy pasted a couple of these, and after some thinking, I think that we should definitely add some padding to this whole section. So let me just add a class of section padding to this whole thing. And maybe we just want to change this layout so that it's like 50-50. So let's also try that out. So inside here I will just put 50 and then 50% is the text. And let's see how that would look like. The image should currently end. Okay, so if I reload it, yeah, there it is. The image actually ends right here, so it's aligned. And this looks actually nicer. So let's just go with that. And okay. So let me also define the section padding. So I will just go up here and in here just type the section padding, and this should be just padding at top and bottom of, let's just go with 4 rems and 0 from left and right. So that should add quite a lot of space to this. Yeah, there it is. I think that this looks actually okay, but we can add a little bit more space. Let's just go with 5. So that it's clear that this is another section. Okay, I think that this looks good. Let's just go with that. Cool. So with basically these articles taken care of, let me also handle this whole aside situation. So in here we have the section, but right underneath it we will have just some sort of aside, and this will be just the aside sort of sidebar menu in here. So in here you probably want to put some ad at the top, but I will just leave it up to you. And I will just start out directly by creating a div with the class of authors, like this. And in here I will just create the new author. So what do we want to do? Let me just use the text to center. So we will just have text center class, and this should just put the whole text into center. And let me just actually create the sort of avatar for this person. This should have like image thumbnail class, so this will be just a smaller image. And let's also just have the image rounded, or like image circle, like this. Cool. We can also put it inside of a container. So let's just use a div with the class of container, or image, or author image container, like this. And inside we will have the image. So let me just control exit right here, and then we will have the author info. So div with the class of author info. And inside here we will have just some sort of h3 heading saying my name is Joe, then some sort of paragraph saying just a little bit about him. So let's just use something like lorem of 15. Okay, there it is. Nice. And let's also add some sort of div with the class of social links. And we will just put these social links that we've got from header. So let me just copy paste it actually, just to save some time. So I will just put, let's just use these 3, and let's put them in here, paste it. Right, and let's see. So there should be, of course, we need to define the alt of this and also the source. So alt, I will leave up to you to figure it out. And the source code should be something like image, and then, wow, we don't have a person in here, or maybe we do. Yeah, there it is, person. So there is some sort of person. Let's see how the person looks like. For some reason, these social icons are not working. Of course, we need to add the unordered list to this thing. Okay, so unordered list, and then put them in there. And let's also add the class of display flex. And let's also add the class of justify content, or like space between or space around. What we will use? Let's just use space between. That might look interesting. So let's see. Something really odd is happening with the reloading part of the screen. It may be just it's probably just too hard to reload such a huge amount of data, especially these images. To load them, it might be just really hard. Okay, so let me just target the image thumbnail. So right here, I will just put the command for the aside, and I will just say that the image thumbnail will have just the width of 200 pixels and the height of 200 pixels. And let's also say that the object fit will be cover. Once again, so that it keeps the aspect ratio. So when I reload it, it should look much better. There it is. Alright, but there is a lot of space around it. So let me actually fix this whole thing. So author info. Alright, so let me just probably add a little bit of margin to this whole author info thing. Or we can just add a margin to this aside. But yeah, let's just add the margin to this author info, probably. And this should be actually just author, because this is just one author. And let's also add the class of text center, and let's see how it would look like. So text center, and this should be just text align to center like this. And let's see, this should move it to center. With this, we probably want to use something like space around with these social icons. So let's just use, or let's just align them actually to center. So let's just try justify content center. Center like this. Let's see how that would look like. It should look much better. There should be just 3 icons in there. When it loads, there it is. Of course, we probably need to add some sort of space around this. So yeah, let me just target this author social links. So let me just put in here just author, and let me actually just target the list items. Let me just add some sort of margin of 0 and 1 rem like this. And let's also in here define the image circle. And this would be just a image that have the border radius of 50%, so that it is circled like this. Alright, we can maybe change the width and the height, because this is just a huge image. So let's just change it actually to something like a half. Half is maybe just too small, but let's see how 100 and 100 pixels would look like. Then what we probably need to do is just define some sort of margin around this whole thing. Okay, but I think that this looks actually pretty cool. And let's just say that these, author info. So let's just add a margin to this whole thing. So author info will have a margin from top and bottom of 0 and from left and right of 1.5 rems. So let's see, this should add just a little bit of margin to this whole thing. Yeah, there it is. I think that this looks actually fine. We can probably just remove the space with this heading, right? So there's, okay, what's here? Okay, so we have the heading. So let's just actually remove the padding at top of this paragraph so that it's like directly underneath this heading. I think that this will look cool. So I will just target the author info. And inside of this, I will just pick the paragraph and say that the margin on top will be 0, like this. Let's see. So if I go here, yeah, there it is. I think that this looks actually pretty nice. So that's probably the way to go. We can maybe just change this margin to something larger. But I think that this is pretty much done. So let me actually just copy paste a couple of these. Alright, so I've copy pasted a couple of these authors, and I've also just changed the image so that with every post it's just the same image so that the page loads faster and we don't have to wait for it. Don't worry, I will just change these images back at the end of this video. So that's about the... I can just close this whole thing. And let's just go to this aside, and in here we have just these authors. So let me just remove, or no, I don't want to close this whole thing. Let's just use this thing. Yeah, let's just close this whole. And underneath, let me just add another div with the class of tags. So div with the class of tags. And in here we will have just a couple of tags. So we will have an unordered list with these tags. So these tags will be just as a list items, and they will all have some sort of link in them, probably, and in there they will have just some sort of programming tag or whatever, so something like that. In here we probably want to just use the class of display flex, and inside here we probably just want to use the class of badge. And then we can actually style it out later in our CSS. So there it is, the class of badge. And yeah, we will style it later on in our CSS. So let me just copy paste a couple of these. Alright, so I've copy pasted a couple of these, and currently, as you can notice, it looks horrible because it just tries to fit this whole list of items into one line, which we definitely don't want. So in here, I will just target the tags, and then I will target the unordered list inside, and I will just say that the flex wrap, we will just add a wrap to it, right? So wrap, and this should do the trick. Yeah, there it is, and it looks actually pretty nice. Let me just put a section padding to this whole thing. So section padding, and let's see how that would look like, because we need a lot of space between the items. Yeah. Alright, I think that this looks actually pretty cool. And let's also just style these out, so style these badges a little bit in here. I didn't want to add these classes in there that we've already predefined because I didn't know how it would look. So I will just try it out in here because we can just change it much more easily in the CSS. So let's just say that the background could be something like a gray color. Let's see how that would look like. So something gray. There it is. Wow. But we definitely don't want to just target the badge. We want to target the badge inside of our tags like this. Nice. So let's see how it would look like if we used just a dark and white. So the background color could be just the 222, and then the color could be just the white. So color will be just FA. Like this. Let's see. That should probably look alright. What's going on? Yeah, I need to target this. Okay, so there is a link inside, and we have a we've defined a color for the link, right? So let's also target this. So a link inside of these tags will have just this color. Okay, there it is, and I think that this looks actually pretty cool. It's just simple, plain. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the text, how they look like. You probably want to add more of them, so I will just grab a couple of these and just paste it right under. So they will be the same, but what can you do? It would look okay. Yeah, there it is. Nice. Alright, and actually let me just try to add a little bit of margin to this whole thing. So I can actually use this author info for that. So inside here I can just use tags, and yeah, there it is. Much better. Cool. So I think that this is pretty much done. And let me also just add, I forgot to add the load more button at the end of this section. So at the end of this whole section, we will have just a load more button. So let me just put a div with the class of button container. And let me just style a new button. So a link with the class of button. And let's just use button main. Nice. And inside here we will just say load more, and it will just load more articles, right? You obviously want to define a href, or you can just style it as a button. Cancel. You can just use just like a button like this, so button tag for it. That's up to you. Yeah, so let's just use button because it probably makes more sense in this case. So in here I will just style the button main, and let's just add some sort of padding to it. So 1 rem, 3 rems. Let's just change the font size of this to something larger, font size of this to 1.2 rems. Let's just use the text transform to uppercase, and let's see how it looks like. There it is. Okay, so let's use the border of none. That will remove the border, and let's just say that the background color will be the black one, and the color will be actually the primary one, maybe something like that. Let's see. So the color will be this primary one. Okay, let's see. There it is. We probably want to change the font weight. So font weight of let's use 700. There it is. I think that this looks actually pretty cool. Let's just go with that, and let's just move it a little bit. So what was the tag? Button container. So button container, container, and let me just say that the margin will be auto. Okay, it doesn't work for some reason. Of course, this should be container, probably. Is it properly spelled? Button container, button container. Let me just check this whole thing out. Let's see. In here we have button container, but the margin doesn't work because this is a inline element, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, probably. So let's just do the display flex for this one. Display flex, and then justify content center. This should do the trick. Let's see if I save it. Yeah, it's centered. There it is. Nice. And let me also just add the class button container, and let me just also add some sort of margin at top. So margin of this should go to wherever we want, but let's just use 2 rems and 0. 2 rems is maybe just too small. Let's just go with 4. There it is. Nice. All right. So yeah, I think that this is pretty much about it, and let's just create the footer for this page. So right after this whole thing, so let me just close it. There it is. Let me just create the footer tag. So comment, first of all, footer, and inside here we will just create a footer tag. Nice. And inside here, let me just put a div with the class of container, and let's also put inside the div with the class of let's just use call grid free calls, right? So we will have a grid with 3 columns in here, and inside here the first div will be with the class of footer about, or something like that, and we will just put a logo inside here. So let's just use a div with the class of logo container, and inside here let me just actually copy paste it from the header because we've used like span and stuff like that. So I will just copy paste it even with the container. So down here I will just put it like this, and let's see, there should be already something. There is modern block. Nice. And let's just say that the class of this should be definitely section padding, and let's just say that the background will be dark and the color will be white. Let's see how that looks like. The color of this link doesn't change, so we need to specify it on our own. But if we add, for example, another div in here with the class, or let me just straight away just add some sort of paragraph, so p like this. Let me get out. Okay, and let's just say that there will be just lorem of like 50 words. There it is. Let's just save this thing. There should be white text. Yeah, there it is. Nice. All right. Underneath, we can also add some sort of social icons, probably. Let's just go with that. So, I will just copy paste it from the header. That's just the easiest way to do it. So I will just take this whole section and put it in here. Save this thing. Obviously, we once again need to style this because there are links in here. So we need to change the color of them. But otherwise, I think that we will be okay. All right, so let's just move on and create another div with the class of footer. Let's just call this one footer nav. So we will have a navigation, and inside here I can just simply copy paste the whole navigation that we've had. Let's just use this one. You probably just want to put something like a something like terms of services, stuff like that. So I will just leave that up to you, but I will just remove this whole thing because we don't want this to be displayed as a flex. But otherwise, I think that this is all right. And let me just go to the main.css and actually just target the footer links, and we will just say that the color of these will be the white one. Or let's see how this one would look like. Okay, that's interesting. We may want to try and experiment with this a little bit. And let's also target the footer list items. And let's just say that these list items will have margin of 1 rem. Okay, so like this. And let's also use list items like this. And let's see, there it is. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. We can add a heading to this whole thing. So let's just use a heading of level 3 for this thing. And this will just say useful links. And let's save it. There should be just some, yeah, there it is. I think that this looks actually pretty alrighty. We can just put the text to center class. Let's see how that would look like. Yeah, I think that this looks actually good. Alright, so let me just add another class of this, and this should be just a footer nav and this, or footer news. And inside here we will just have the form for the newsletter. So inside this div, I will just have a form that should have the class of display flags. So the class, what's happening? Class of this will be display flags. And let's just say that there will be a div with the class of form group or input group. And we will have just a email, so input with the placeholder being email. So email, and then we will have some sort of button with the send, right? So button, and let me just use these whatever classes we've used. I think that it was button main, right? And let me just, instead of the text, say the envelope, so that should pretty much, everyone should probably get this one. So this should say just FA envelope like this, and let's close this thing, and there we have it. So let's reload the page. There it is. Okay, so we have very simple form, and there is the button, and we probably want to style it, so we will do that. And let me also just add a h3 heading in here, just saying newsletter like this. Let's see, there it is. We can probably make this also text center. Okay, and let's style the form actually. So inside here I will just put the input. Let me just target the input group, and let's just say that it will have the width of 100%, and let's just say that the button, so input group, the button main inside, so button main will have just smaller padding, so it will have just a padding of 0.7 rem and then 1 rem. Let's see how that would look like. Okay, I think that this looks okay. And let's also target the input inside of this, so I will just put it away, and inside here I will just put input like this, and let's see. All right, nothing happened. Input group, of course, it's not a class of input group, so I need to remove that. There it is, nice. And let's just style the button, and by saying that the background color will be the white one. Let's see how that would look like. There it is. It looks alright. It looks alright. But this font, what's happening? Why is this larger? So if I just hover over it, the envelope have, in my opinion, larger font size. So in here, let me just type in here the font size of this thing, and let's make it 1.3 rems, I think. I think it was 1.3. Let's see, that's maybe too much. That's too much. So let's just use 1.2. You obviously want to play with this so that it looks better. And yeah, maybe with the button, it can have a little bit of border around it. Let's just say the border of 1 pixel, solid, white. Or let's just use this green one. That might actually look better. Alright, and let's just make it larger. Let's just go with, for example, 3 pixels so that you can actually see it. Okay, that's too much. Let's just go with 2. Alright, I think that this looks actually pretty cool, though we can change it to white color. Yeah, this looks better. So overall, I think that this is actually alright, but let me just move it down a little bit. So we have display flex, so let me just use the align items to center, and this should do the trick. So this should move it somewhere around in the middle. It doesn't. Let's see what's going on. If I just get this whole form, so this div, then this whole form, of course. So this form doesn't have a really large height. So we will just say that the form will have a lot larger height. So let's just target this as a footer form, and let's just say that the height will be 10 rems or something like that at least. So that, yeah, currently it's like somewhere around here. I think that this looks actually okay. So let's just go with that, and this is pretty much. Yeah, also we need to add of course, the credits, who made the page, right? So let me just add it underneath this grid. So I will collapse this grid, and underneath I will have just div with the class of credits, and I will just put a paragraph saying made by me, and also the copy sign, copy, and 2020, and let's also add the all rights reserved, like this. And let's see, that should be pretty much it for this whole thing. We can just move this to center, so text center, like this. That should do the trick. There it is, nice. So I think that we are actually pretty much done. So let's just make it responsive. Alright, so when I press the magic button on our developer tools, it should make the website look like this. So it's displaying like it was on iPhone X. And as you can notice, it looks horrible. What we will do is just style it out. So we will just add a media query that will just say that max width is, let's just go with 500 pixels. So if the device is smaller than 500 pixels, these styles will apply. If it is larger, these styles will not apply. So in here, I will just put display flex, and let's just say that the flex direction of all of these will be just column. Okay, so like this. And let's also change the display flex for the social icons. So display flex, so let me just target the social icons, social links, maybe social links, and every display flex inside of the social links. Obviously we want these social links to be just in one row. So inside here I will just put flex direction row, and that should pretty much do the trick. Yeah, there it is. Okay, we probably want to do the same for the info. I think it was info. So So display flex, and inside here let's just go with flex direction of row. Let's see. All right, yeah, that's good. We'll start it later on. All right, so let me just target these columns. So first of all, we have the call of free, right? So grid free call, and we will just say that the grid template columns will be one fraction, and that's about it. And we will do the same for the second one. How is it? How was that? Grid to one call. Yeah, this one. Okay, so it starts to look a lot better. So there we have this. It's always with the tag. So obviously we want for these, how did we call that? Blog post info. So obviously this display flex must be also inline. So let me just target it right here. So I will just put comma in here, and blog post info display flex will be also in the direction of row. So like this. Let's see. It doesn't change anything. But, oh, of course, the display flex is already added to this element, so we cannot just target it like this. It would just it was just trying to find an element that was inside of this one that have the class of display flex, but there isn't any. Okay, so currently it's working. Nice. Let me just also remove the image large. So the image large info. So image large, and this one should just have the height of whatever we used. 14 rems, I think, was for these others. Yeah. No. Let's just target that. So let's see. There we have image large. Of course. So we need to make the selector more precise, because currently it has a lower priority than this one. So let me just directly paste this whole thing, and that should do the trick. There it is. Nice. All right. So let's also fix up this whole situation. So let's see. If I open up developer tools and just hover over this whole thing, we have the display flex, and then we have these items in there. So we just need to fix this image container and blog post content, and let's just make it the width of 100%. So what was that? It was like, I'm not sure about the selector for this whole thing. So let me just click on this actually and select this blog post content, and then we have the selector right here. So I will just copy paste it, and I will just say that the width will be 100%. Nice. And the same for the image. So let me just find out the image. There it is. And let's just use this image container. There it is. So let me just copy paste it, and this should do the trick. So like this, and paste. Bam. There it is. So we have a lot of blog posts right here. Some of them have tags, some of them doesn't, but that's okay. Then we have these sort of authors. I think that these authors actually look good. There's nothing wrong with them. Then we have these tags. We probably want this to still grow in a row. So I will just target the text and display flex in there, and this should change this whole thing. It doesn't. Of course, we need to put it like this. So text and yeah, there it is. Okay, so now it looks better. Okay, and then we get to the footer, where everything looks pretty much good, though the newsletter doesn't look good at all. So let me just target that by just pressing the F12 button and actually taking a look at this whole thing. So we have the input, and okay, basically it doesn't fit the whole line. What happens if we just display this as a flex, and then put the direction. Okay, so let's just target this input group, and let's just display this as a flex. So display flex, and let's just use flex direct, or yeah, this should work. So let's just see. Yeah, there it is. Nice. And then we have these yeah, this sort of credits. I think that this looks actually okay. We can maybe add some sort of margins and play with that, but overall I think that this looks fine. But let me just go back to the top and fix this whole thing up. So in here we have these classes of just there is like, where did we put this? So inside of here we have these social links and these other things, and where we are, what's happening? There should be, yeah, there it is, social links, sorry. So social links, and we want to just select this whole selector, and instead of width of 33%, we want it to have 100, right? So I will just put it in here and just say that the width will be 100. So let me just actually copy paste it right here, and that should do the trick. There it is, nice. And with these links in the navigation, we can also style them out a little bit, or we can make them even more responsive via the humbucker button, but I will leave that up to you if you want to do that. So in here we have this, not info, but we have this nav, all right, and then we have unordered list. So let me just target that. So I will just put nav and unordered list inside of this, and let me just say that we want to target this list items inside. And let me say that they will have some sort of padding at the top. So padding of 1 rem 0. Let's see. And let's just say that they will have the text aligned to center. That should also look better. There it is. Nice. And let me just target every other nav link, and let's make the background of them different. So I will just put nav UL li, and let's just target every nth child, and let's just use the odd keyword in here, and let's just say that the background color of this one will be, let's try out this combination. So black, and the color will be the primary one, that one, I think. Let's see how that would look like. Of course, we need to put it like this, and we probably need to target the links in there. So let's just put it, yeah, let me just copy paste this whole thing. Inside here I will just put color. Inside here I will just put the primary one like this, and let's just target these links. Okay, there it is. But yeah, of course. Yeah, so let's just, instead of this whole selector, we want to target every odd li, and then we want to pick the link from there, right? So that's the proper selector for this whole thing. And yeah, I think that this looks actually pretty alright. We can maybe just put a little bit of border to this whole navigation. So let's just use border of 1 pixel, solid gray. Let's see how that would look like. Okay, I think that this looks actually pretty alright. So let's just go with that. So we are pretty much done with this whole page. So let me actually go ahead and create a new file, and this one could be just, let's see, this could be just a category.html. So inside here we will have just our category, and let me just copy paste this whole thing. So Control A, Control C, Control V, and let me just get rid of this whole section. So this whole section will go away like this, and let's see if we, yeah, of course we had to just put a category in here. Let's see whether it finds it. I can't get category. Alright. There was typo. Yeah, there was typo. Nice. So that's basically our category page currently. And let me just add some sort of section in front of the main. Just saying like something like a category section. So I will just close this whole thing. And inside here I will just type in here category section, and this will be just a section with probably the section padding, right? So let's just add the class to this of section padding, and like this, and inside we will have just some sort of h1 with the section title. So let's just use technology like this. Let's see how it looks like. Let me also just add the background of dark and the color of primary. Let's see. And let me also align the text to center. So text center like this. And we may want to style it out a little bit so that it's larger, right? So let's just say that the how do I put this, like hero hero title, probably something like that. And let's just target it in our CSS. I will just say that the hero title, let me put it in front of the media. So hero title, I will just target the h1 in there, and I will say that the font size will be, let's just go with 4 rems, something really large. There it is, nice. That looks actually pretty good. We probably, why it just deleted the padding somehow. Okay, so this is index, the category. So section padding, why it doesn't have the padding? If I just put hero T, let's see how that would look like. This should still keep the padding. Why it doesn't have the padding? What's going on? If I put this, let's see, there should be padding at top, but there isn't any. So of course section padding, so typo in here, so just title, this should do the trick. And so hero title like this, and there it is, nice. So yeah, I think that this is pretty much way to go for this thing. And let me just maybe copy paste a couple of these main articles so that it looks a little bit better. Alright, so I've copy pasted a couple of these. I've just made this one really large, but yeah, that's up to you, however you want to style this whole thing. And let me just add a section padding to this whole thing. So I will just say section padding, just to add a little bit of space, because we definitely need it. Yeah, that looks much better. But yeah, I think that this is pretty much the whole page taken care of. Let me just maybe try out something really smaller a little bit. Yeah, this looks better. Let's just go with that. So yeah, that's pretty much taken care of the category. Let's just move on to the detail. So in order to create the detail page, I will just copy paste this index, and I will just rename this to detail. So this will be just the blog post. And in here, let me just close this header, and let me just get rid of this main section. And inside here, instead of section, we will have just some sort of article. And in here, we will have just the actual content of this whole post. So we will style that later on. But for now, let me just add this sort of thing. So I will just copy paste this whole thing. I don't know, like section heading. I don't know how to call this thing. Banner at the top. And I will just put the title in here. So this should be like blog post title, like this. And if I save it and actually go to the detail, so detail HTML, there it is. Okay, my blog post title. Okay, the aside looks pretty good. Let's just go with that. We may want to just put a couple of these posts inside of it. So let's just try out to actually get a couple of these, and let's just paste them in there. So just to see how it would look. Okay, we have article in here. Then we have the author, so let's just see if I can paste it in there, see how it looks like. There it is, there's an article, but it doesn't look good at all. We would probably have to style it out, so I will leave that up to you if you want to style it out, but I will just delete it for now and handle actually this whole blog post content. So inside here we will have just the image with the class of image fluid. So image class image fluid and some sort of alt, and let me actually close this whole thing so we can see better. Alt with something, probably the blog post title, and some source being somewhere in the images. Let's just use, I don't know, 11 JPEG. Have no idea what it is, but yeah, it's an image. Nice. But the image fluid doesn't work. We have to typo in here, so right, like this, of course. Yeah, there it is. Nice. Let me just see how something a smaller would look like if I just pick the 8 one. Yeah, this looks better. Let's just go with that. Also, we could just add the post title again in here, like an H2 heading. So this is my blog post title, and let's save this thing. Let's see how it looks like. There should be just a heading, there it is, or like subtitle, probably subtitle in here, because we have the title at the top of the page, right? This is the title, and inside should be some sort of subheading, so subtitle. Then we will have just some sort of paragraphs, basically with some lorem ipsum, so lorem, and let's just use 100. There it is. Nice. Okay, so there is it. Where is it? Yeah, there we have it. We probably want to put some sort of padding to this whole thing, so let me just actually add a class to this thing called post detail, like this, and let me style it in our main.css. So I will go to main.css and actually target it in here, so post detail, and I will just say that there will be a lot of margin from top and bottom. We pretty much don't care about it, but from left and right, let's just use 3 rems, just so that there is a lot more space. Yeah, and we probably just don't want to target this thing, but we want to target the actual content, so that the image is larger but the content have the margin. So inside here I will just, underneath the image, have, of course, not category, I will just close this thing. We want to target the detail, and inside here I will have a div with the class of content. So here a div with the class of content, like this, and let me just put everything inside of this div. So I will just copy paste this whole text in here, and let's see, there should be a margin from these sides. Yeah, there it is. Nice. That looks actually pretty cool, so we can do that. If we just add a little bit more paragraphs, maybe just some other subheading of, if I just put it in here, and then maybe some larger paragraphs, so a paragraph with lorem of 150. There it is. Nice. So I will just hit enter. There it is. So that's our whole post. Let's see. That's how it looks like. We can maybe put some sort of unordered list in here, just to see how things will look like. Unordered list and some sort of list items. We're saying like list item 1, and let me just copy paste these so that we have at least a couple of them. And then let's just say, let's just add a class to this as a style. Alright, and in here we will just target the style class, so that we are adding actually the list style to this, and let's just use circle for this whole thing, just to see. Okay, there it is. And let me just also add some sort of padding to this whole thing of 40 pixels, probably. That's the default. I think that this looks actually pretty cool, so let's just go with that. And there's some sort of margin at top, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if I just hover over this. Okay, there is the unordered list have padding with this style. There's padding 40 pixels. Of course, I just want padding on left, so my bad, sorry. Yeah, that's better. So this is basically our unordered list. I think that this looks actually pretty cool. We can maybe just add a link in there somewhere. So let's just put a link in here, because that's usually what you want to do, put a little bit, couple of links in your blog post. So I will just Control X this whole thing in there, and let me just style out links. So I will just go in here and just say content, and I want every link to have the text decoration of underline. So where it is, oh, I can't see it, underline, there it is. And let's also say that the font weight of this whole thing will be 700. Let's see, there it is. So now we can see the text properly. I think that this looks actually pretty cool. I think that this is actually the way to go, and that's about it. So let me just check how it looks like on a mobile phone. So I will just open the developer tools and just make it look like it's on phone. Yeah, I think that this is actually pretty good. We probably want to put a section padding to this whole thing. So in here, or we can just put a padding also in here, right? So let me just put to the aside a class called section padding, and let me do the same for the article. So I will just Control C, and then where we have the article here, of course. So let's just put it in here, get rid of these, and we are good to go. So save it, and let's see. Yeah, there is a space now, so that looks good. But I think that we are pretty much done. So this looks good. Let me also check the category, but I think that the category will look okay as well. So category, there it is, technology, looks nice, good. So I think that we are pretty much done. I think that this is the whole project. So wow, that was a long video, long lecture to do, but I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, feel free to hit the like button, feel free to subscribe to this channel in order to see more videos like this one, and I will see you next time. Bye.